What is poaching and why do you need to know? Hello everybody, Big Beardy back again with another video, and today we're talking poaching. What is it, why you shouldn't be doing it, how it can affect you, and we're going to go into a bit more detail of what is counted as poaching and what is not counted as poaching. So first of all, let's get on with what exactly is poaching. Now, poaching is where you use information that a shipper has given you, one of their customers, to take their customer, basically. So I'll give you an example. I'm working on behalf of 123 Couriers. They send me into ABC Furniture, and whilst I'm at ABC Furniture, I start giving them my information so that they come in to me directly and that I become their shipper. That is poaching. So, for example, I'm in ABC Furniture, and when I get there, I'm like, hey, instead of phoning 123 Couriers, why don't you phone me directly? Here's my card. That's poaching. Using the information they've given you to get your foot in the door so that you can take their customer. And this is a massive no-no in the business. You do not do this. The consequences, you can get kicked off the Courier exchange. The shipper won't use you again. They will obviously tell everyone, don't use this dude. He will nick your customers. You get blacklisted, basically. Just a massive no-no. So do not poach customers. So this all came about me doing this video because I actually had a conversation with someone around a video I did called, I think it was called Getting End Users Through the Courier Exchange. And I said in that video, there is a slight possible way, it's a bit iffy. I believe those were my exact words, where if you know which customer is not the shipper's customer, you could potentially go and talk to them because they're not the customer of the shipper. I was wrong on this fact, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail at the end. So, what are the exact how long does this last and what are the exact rules? So, I've just told you, you cannot go into a customer and take their customers. When you're going into a job for the Courier Exchange or whoever it may be, you are representing that company. So if I go in for 123 Couriers, from the time I collect the job to the time I deliver it, I am part of 123 Couriers. I cannot poach their customers. And that lasts for about 2 years. Well, it does last. This is on the Courier Exchange. Let me just make that clear. That other companies might say differently, but on the Courier Exchange, it says clearly 2 years you cannot approach that customer for. 2 years and 1 day, open season. And that's from when you've gone into that customer, not worked for that shipper. I need to make that clear. So, for instance, I've been working for 123 Couriers for every week for the last 2 years, but I've only been into that one customer, ABC Furniture, 2 years ago. It's now 2 years and 1 day, let's say. I can now approach them because I'm not necessarily sure they're still a customer of 123 Couriers. I'm not sure if they've got a new courier. I've not been in there. I haven't got that sort of foot in the door. It almost works like a non-compete. People that know what non-competes are, basically when someone leaves a company, they sign an agreement saying, I'm not going to, compete against you for a certain amount of time. It stops people leaving companies and nicking all their customers. Similar sort of thing. But after 2 years, you can then go and approach that customer. Now, someone asked me, if you know someone's got a ship, if you know a certain company is using a shipper, but you've never done work for them before, can you go in and try and get them? Or is that poaching? That's not poaching. That's healthy competition. That leads to a robust workplace. Yes, you might know they have that shipper, but if you've never gone in and worked for that shipper, it's healthy competition. You're allowed to approach them. The shipper that, has that customer might not be happy that other people are trying to get their customers, but it happens. It's competition. It happens all the time. So, yes, you can do that. That's not poaching because you haven't been given the foot in the door, as it were, from the shipper. So you can do that. Like I said, it lasts 2 years. And, if I dropped off for a customer, I've finished my job, bang, just delivered, can't touch you, but your next door neighbour I can talk to, and the next door neighbour to that, and anyone else in that area you haven't worked for within the last 2 years, you can try and get them as customers. That's the broad sort of how it all works. Now, like I said, this all came about because I was having a conversation with someone about that other video. And I said, like I said, it's a bit iffy, but you can, if it's not their customer, you should be able to go and talk to them. It's not something I do personally, for what my reasons. I have 5 or 6 shippers I work for constantly. I only work for about 5 or 6 shippers now because they send me so much work, and I don't want to piss them off. And it's a good, you don't want to piss your shippers off. And it's a point this person made. That's why you don't want to annoy your shippers. But they said, no, it says on the CX that whilst you're working for them on their job, you are representing them for the entirety of the job. Yeah, I agree with that. It made sense. I forgot that piece. You sign this when you join the CX. And I actually forgot that little bit of information. But I was looking at it from on the CX, on their forum, underneath poaching, it says you cannot try and obtain their customer. This is where some confusion was coming in. And other people had mentioned this to me before. They were saying they're getting confused. Can I go and talk to the other person because it's not their customer? So I'll give you an example. The shipper sent me into the collection place who I know is their customer. 100% know that is their customer. I don't know how I know. It's just an example, but I know it's their customer. I cannot touch that customer. That would be poaching because it's their customer. I go to the delivery address. I know for a fact it's not their customer. Can I then approach them? And from the wording, I thought you might be able to. I wasn't 100% sure, but from what it said, it only says you cannot approach their customer. This is where I was slightly wrong. You cannot approach that customer either. That would still be counted as poaching on the Courier exchange. So when you're doing a job, doesn't matter who the customer is, even if it's not their customer, whilst you're doing that job, you cannot approach them. So, and the reason I know this is because after I had this conversation with the person about what is poaching, what isn't poaching, I phoned the Courier exchange. I asked them directly. I gave them that exact example, and they said we would still count that as poaching because you are still working on the job for that shipper. So there you go. Whilst you're on a job, do not approach anyone as yourself and try and get them as customer. Doesn't matter if you know they are their customer or not their customer. And off the back of this, the gentleman I spoke to from the CX said he's gonna pass it up the line and possibly get that wording changed so it doesn't say their customer. Because I think that's what a lot of people get confused by. Because they know it's not their customer, so can they approach them? No, is the answer. So, in summary, what can and can you not do? You cannot approach, obviously, their customer. You cannot approach the person who is not their customer whilst you're doing that job. You're on that job, you cannot approach them. It still counts as poaching. You cannot approach them for 2 years. Done. But you can talk to their neighbour. You can talk to a customer that might belong to a shipper, but you've never done any work for them before, for either that shipper or that customer. You never done any work, you can approach them. That's healthy competition. Now, there might be still a couple of iffy areas when it comes to this, and we try and keep it as clear as possible so everyone knows what's going on. But there are still, obviously, grey areas, and I'm going to bring a couple of them up. Multi-drops, for example. If you're doing work for a company and you're picking up from Hermes and you're going to 100 different addresses, those addresses you're going to, okay, you're working at the time, and whilst you're working, you shouldn't be approaching anyone because you're working on behalf of whoever the shipper is. But if you're going to 100 different addresses, which, most of them are house addresses, but some might be business addresses, when you're off the clock afterwards, can you approach them? Bear in mind it's multi-drops, it's slightly different. I don't know the answer to that, and it might be another phone call I have to make to the Courier exchange to clarify. Because you're becoming a parcel delivery dude at that point. You're not like taking pallets, you're taking hundreds of parcels for Hermes or Parcel Force or whoever it may be. Unclear. The next one is, which makes it a bit unclear, let's say you've dropped off. You've done a job for a shipper. And you've not tried to approach anyone, you've done it exactly how you should be. I represent 123 couriers, that's what you've done whilst your job. But you advertise in the open marketplace, billboards, websites, Facebook. And then that customer approaches you through Facebook, not knowing that it was you that did the job the other day. They just approached you because your information is out there in the open market and then want you to do a job for them. Is that then poaching? I'm not sure, because they've approached you through the open market. The problem with this is, how do you prove it? How do you prove you've not poached it? There's the issue. And you haven't poached, they've approached you because they've seen you advertising somewhere. Still questions around that, and this I might thinking about now. I might need to phone the Courier Exchange again and go, listen, what if these scenarios happen? Because no, I don't want to get anyone get in trouble. I don't want anyone to get kicked off the Courier Exchange for poaching when they haven't poached. I don't want anyone to not understand the rules and think, actually, I'm not poaching when you are poaching. So what I would say is, if in doubt, don't try and get them as customers. If you're not 100% sure and you think, I might be poaching here, you're probably poaching. You know, even if you don't think you are. And I say this because I've had people message me before saying, I've been kicked off the Courier Exchange for doing this. I don't think I'm poaching. And I've read what they've sent me and I'm going, no mate, you're 100% poaching at that point. Some people just aren't 100% sure what's going on. Some people, I've had one person who sent me a message saying, I was working for one of the major shippers and I tried to get their customer and I said, yeah, but that's poaching. They went, yeah, but they've got loads of customers. Why can't I have a couple of them? Because it's poaching. Cover your own back, because the last thing you want is to be kicked off the CX, have shippers saying they're never going to work with you again, and the shippers talk. Don't think they don't. Shippers talk to each other. Shippers talk to couriers. Like I said, I've got 4 or 5 shippers I do a lot of work for. They talk to me. They tell me, oh, you know, have you worked for this company before? Yeah, I've worked for them before. That's not poaching or anything. It's like, yeah, I've worked for them. I'm a contract courier. I work for lots of companies. What do you think of them? Are they all right? Who's in your, you get asked these questions. They talk among themselves. They do. I know one shipper whose best friend is another shipper, and they talk constantly and they pass information to each other. Not poaching, because they're not. They're talking to each other. But one works in one area, one works in another area, and they talk because they don't want to encroach on each other's business. So don't think they don't talk. And if you get blacklisted, it'll get round. If people know that you're poaching, other people will find out. I have a Discord, right, as some of you may know. Link down below. Yes, selfless plug. I have a Discord. We talk constantly about shippers and about couriers. As soon as someone has a bad experience with a shipper that isn't paying or has fucked them around, we find out about it. Same thing happens with poaching. If I, let's say I put a job out and someone poached it, the first thing I'm going to do is go on my Discord and say, listen everyone, this dude, never use him again because he will poach your customers. So don't do it. So first of all, I admit I was slightly wrong in my other video when it came to poaching. Do not touch anyone's customer. Doesn't matter if you know they're their customer or not, you will technically be counted as poaching according to CX. So, and yeah, just don't do it. So thank you for listening. Please like, comment and subscribe. And as always, be safe out there. Have a great day.